Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of AMC Entertainment, ticker symbol AMC. And here we are looking at the weekly time frame, closing the week at a price of $4.83 above the key level that I was hoping we would close above, $4.81. I'll be going over that in just a minute. It's been the second green week in a row, looking pretty awesome. Not only that, we are also back in the channel that I've gone over, which I'll again go over in just a minute, and putting in the close, the weekly close at $4.83. That is the second highest weekly close of the year, with the highest being the close on January 5th, when we closed at a price of $5.17. And so I think that by next Friday, we will be eclipsing that, closing above $5.17. I think there's a lot of bullish stuff going on in the chart. However, I do think we might see a little bit of a pullback next week. I do think that could represent a great buying opportunity. And so I'm just going to go over some of those levels here in this video on the daily time frame. But before I jump over there, I did want to point out on the weekly time frame, we do see this volume shelf here. So it does look like AMC could be bumping its head right around $6.35, where we see this consolidation over here. So that is something to keep in mind in the week and weeks ahead. But yeah, now let's switch over to the daily time frame and check out the drawings that I've done. Some of these are familiar, some will be new. Really, the only new one that I put up here was this green one at $5.17, marking the highest weekly close of 2024. And so that is where I think we will be closing above next week, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. And I do think it's pretty likely. Looking at the chart, last week's video came out following Friday's close on February 9th, when we tested this downtrending line, which happens to be that channel that I was talking about. And so we are back inside that channel. I think it's looking really good. And during last week's video, I did this yellow Fibonacci retracement here, and I did point out that these levels to the downside could be tested as support, and they could represent good buying opportunities. And so here, the 236 at a price of $4.27.6, that was tested on Tuesday, February 13th, when we hit a low of $4.26.5. So just below that line. And so that was, as it turned out to be, a good buying opportunity as we have rallied, let's see, about almost 13% from that level. So, that was a good opportunity to add. But I do think there will be more opportunities to add. However, I just think that they're going to be higher up as the stock has been looking pretty strong. There are a couple things that do stand out to me as looking a little weak, but generally overall I do think it looks pretty strong. One of those things is that it does look like we have this topping tail put in. We did close in the lower half of the trading on yesterday, February 15th, and so that could suggest a pullback, and we actually did see that a little bit today on February 16th, on Friday. We dropped down to a low of $4.62. But we did get a close above this key level, $4.81 that I had previously mentioned. And not only that, we actually got two closes above that level. So yesterday, we got a close at a price of $4.89. Today, $4.83, a little close to that $4.81 level. So I do think that could suggest we will be seeing a little bit of a retracement next week, but that could represent a good buying opportunity. And so really what we do want to see is a close above this high that we hit on Thursday, which was $5.05. And I do think that is pretty feasible. I do think that we will be closing above that level, as well as $5.17 next week. But, of course, I could be wrong. Maybe we see more of a pullback than I expect. But on Thursday, one thing that we did see that I think is really strong is that the high on the 14th was $4.87. And so we closed above that by 2 cents the following day. And so I do think that represents strength that we are closing higher. And also, speaking of closing above previous highs, $4.81. That represents the high on January 22nd before we started coming down here. So we've gotten 2 closes above that level, and that could suggest confirmation that we are going to be moving higher, breaking above that level. However, since today's close was only 2 cents above that level, that's why I think we could be seeing a little bit of a retracement. And so, from that, I think that since I've done this retracement here, I can actually extend that up to $5.05, since this retracement was kind of an intermediate retracement before we reached the current high that we have. So I'm just going to move that over to $5.05 right here. And so I do think that these are some levels that we could be pulling back to, just like we did following the high of last week. Those levels, one being $4.70.4 at the 236, that was hit today. So that could have been a good dip buying opportunity. However, since it does seem like there is a little bit of weakness up here, it's quite possible we could be retracing to the 382, which is at a price of $4.49. Also, that being kind of a psychological level right around $4.50. So I do think that could be another dip buying opportunity. And then finally down here at the 50% retracement, that is at a price of $4.31.7. So, I do think we could be getting there. That would also be testing the bottom of the channel as support. So, if we do see a pullback next week and we do dip to those levels, I do think that could be a good dip buying opportunity, just like it was over here, as I do think there is a lot of strength in the stock. And speaking of strength, I do want to bring up the retracement that I did last week that was actually in red. Here in white, we can see some levels that might be acting as resistance, especially if, we take a step back, these extensions. And so considering those extensions, I just wanted to actually adjust this Fibonacci retracement, maybe to make it a little bit more conservative. So from that retracement, the 1618 extension is at $5.56.7, which I did go over in last week's video. And so I do think that could be a reasonable price target for next week if we do see a continuation of the green moves over the past couple weeks. But, if we do want to look at some more levels that are perhaps a little more fine-tuned, I can adjust this retracement to the low that was here on January 29th, also being an all-time low at that time. And so if I do adjust this retracement to that level, and so from there we can get some levels that may actually serve as support on the way down, just fine-tuning the possibility of a retracement. And actually, if we do look at that, the 786 retracement is at a price of $4.63.2, and that is almost precisely what the low was today, being just, 1.2 cents off of the low. So right there could be a good dip buying opportunity. And then also considering the next level down, the 618 at a price of $4.49.3, that does coincide pretty nicely with the 382 here. So, that makes me think that if we do go lower, $4.50, could be the bottom before we start to continue higher. And on the note of continuing higher, I'm just going to adjust this axis so we can see the next level up, the 1618 with this adjusted retracement. That is at a price of $5.32.3. And if I take a step back, we can see that the 1618 here does seem to correspond with a little bit of consolidation over here. So that could represent some resistance that we'd be bumping into. So it does make sense that that level would be there. But then if we also look to the next level up, the 2618 at a price of $6.15.3, that is right around that weekly volume shelf that I pointed out earlier in the video, corresponding to this consolidation that we see over here, as well as up here. And that also, does correspond nicely with the top of this channel. And so I do think we could be returning to these levels in the next week or two, like perhaps right before earnings that will be reported on February 28th, and I will be streaming them here on the channel. So, if you found my thoughts helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and for the stream of their earnings call. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.